Let's try this. Good morning. Welcome to our annual Memorial Day Assembly. This Memorial Day Assembly is an Oakview tradition, and this is our 29th year with this recognition. The purpose of our time together this morning is to provide a brief history of why we celebrate Memorial Day, and through selected readings, musical selections, and a shared message, honor and remember those who have sacrificed so much for us. Before we start, I'd like to take a moment to recognize students and staff who have made this possible. Thank you to QCTV for their partnership. Thank you to Mr. Kempenich, our custodial crew, and others for the setup. Thank you to Mr. Slavic, Ms. Pavot, and Mr. Blees, and of course our students. Let's give a round of applause to our music students. Thank you as well to our student readers and performers. It certainly takes a lot of courage to present in front of classmates. And finally, a special thank you to Mr. Blees for all of his efforts in planning our assembly this morning. This assembly isn't possible without his leadership, so thank you to Mr. Blees. All right. At this time, it's my pleasure to introduce 8th grader Keegan Yu to share a brief history of Memorial Day.
Memorial Day was officially proclaimed on May 5, 1868 by General John Logan, National Commander of the Grand Army of the Republic, and was first observed on May 30, 1868. On this day, flowers were placed on the graves of Union and Confederate soldiers at Arlington National Cemetery. By the end of the 19th century, Memorial Day ceremonies were being held on May 30th throughout the nation. In 1971, Memorial Day was declared a national holiday by Congress. At that same time, it was determined to recognize this holiday on the last Monday in May. On this day, multiple ceremonies are held at cemeteries across the country. Speeches are given honoring those who gave their lives for our country. Wreaths are laid to commemorate their sacrifice, and taps are played to honor their service. Classmates, for the next 30 minutes, we will focus on the music, shared readings, and on our guest messages this morning. At this time, I invite 8th grader Charlotte Blair to lead our school in the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you, students. It's my honor to introduce our readings for the morning. First, we will hear a portion of President Abraham Lincoln's Gettysburg Address by 8th grade orchestra member Vincent Brandt. Following this selection, Pride Alive member Talia Kickhofer will share In Flanders Field.
For 67 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty, and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. Now we are engaged in a great civil war, testing whether that nation, or any nation so conceived and so dedicated, can long endure. We are met on a great battlefield of that war. We have come to dedicate a portion of that field as a final resting place for those who here gave their lives that that nation might live. It is altogether fitting and proper that we should do this. But in a larger sense, we cannot dedicate, we cannot consecrate, we cannot hallow this ground. The brave men, living and dead, who struggled here, have consecrated it, far above our poor power to add or detract. The world will little note, no longer remember what we say here, but it can never forget what they did here. It is for us the living, rather, to be dedicated here to the unfinished work which they who fought here have thus far so nobly advanced. It is rather for us to be here dedicated to the great task remaining before us, that from these honored dead we take increased devotion to that cause for which they gave the last full measure of devotion, that we here highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain, that this nation, under God, shall have a new birth of freedom, and that government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth.
In Flanders fields the poppies blow, between the crosses row on row, that mark our place, and in the sky the larks still bravely singing fly, scarce heard amid the guns below. We are the dead short days ago. We lived, felt dawn, saw sunsets glow, loved and were loved, and now we lie in Flanders fields. Take up our quarrel with the foe, to you from failing hands we throw. The torch be yours to hold it high. If ye break faith with us who die, we shall not sleep through poppies grow in Flanders fields.
Thank you, students. It's my opportunity to introduce our musical selections. First, we will hear Honor and Glory, performed by the 8th grade orchestra under the direction of Mrs. Pavot. Land of the Free, performed by Pride Alive under the direction of Mr. Slavic. And Marches of the Armed Forces, performed by our 8th grade band under the direction of Mr. Blease.
Good morning, Oakview Middle School. My name is Mr. Cahow, and I'm the 8th grade assistant principal here. I also served in the Wisconsin and Minnesota National Guard and retired after 20 years of service in 2018. I would like to thank Mr. Blees and all the staff here for organizing this wonderful program. Let's give them another round of applause. This is amazing. Before I introduce our guest speaker, I'd like to take a moment to share what Memorial Day means to me. For me, Memorial Day has held a special place in my heart since I was a young child. Starting in 6th grade, I started playing taps on my trumpet each year for the Memorial Day programs. And when I was 20 years old, I decided to join the National Guard. I wanted to serve my country and also earn education benefits to help with college. I remember telling my parents my decision. My father said, "You need to be prepared. You might have to go to war someday." At that time, I didn't believe that would ever happen. Then came September 11th, 2001, and everything changed. In 2004, I was deployed to Iraq in support of Operation Iraqi Freedom, and sadly attended multiple funerals for fellow soldiers who were killed in action. Their sacrifices are with me every day, and it's for them and for so many others that I stand before you today to honor their bravery and the ultimate sacrifice. Now it's my great privilege to introduce our guest speaker. My father, Douglas Cahow, served in the United States Army during the Korean War conflict. He later became a geography teacher at Fridley Middle School, and together with my mother, Virginia Cahow, also a retired teacher, has spent much of their life supporting veterans. They are longtime members of the American Legion and have worked to build and maintain veterans memorials, as well as volunteer in countless ways to serve their community. Today, he is here to share the story of my uncle, Robert Cahow, who gave his life in service during World War II. Please join me in a warm Oakview welcome to welcome my father, Douglas Cahow.
Wow! Okay. I stand before you today. I'm very humbled, very proud to be here. I can't imagine such a welcome, such an enthusiastic crowd. Good morning. Please notice an empty chair before you. Why is no one seated on it? Well, let me explain. My name is Douglas Cahow. I was in the U.S. Army during the latter parts of the Korean War. I am the youngest of 8 brothers. I was born in 1932, so I remember the Depression. 6 of my brothers, including myself, have served in the military at one time or another. Today I speak to you as a former soldier and a brother who never came home. He was an MIA. I want you to understand why this chair stands alone in front of you. It was placed there to honor all missing soldiers, sailors, Marines, and Air Force men. I call most all of the veterans my friend. Let me tell you about 85,000 of these missing soldiers. That means no one knows where they are. They never came home. I do that, and I want you to remember that on every 3rd Friday of September each year is called National MIA POW Day. That's a day to remember those who are no longer with us. Just imagine that any one of those 85,000 veterans could be your father. They could be your mother. They could be your sister. They could be your brother. They could be your uncle. They could be your aunt. Or they could just be a friend. Now, I want you to thank them for their sacrifice. You can do that. Every one of you can do that today. It's easy. All I ask you to do is to imagine that in that empty chair is a person that is missing. Again, I remind you, it could be your father, mother, any one of those people. Just imagine they were sitting there. And you've chosen them to be honored today. Well, I have chosen one person to be sitting there, and that is my brother, Robert. Now, have you chosen someone yet? Now that you've chosen that missing soldier, please notice Army Master Sergeant Robert Cahow is placing an MIA POW flag on that chair. He's doing that in honor of all 85,000, including the persons you have chosen and my brother Robert. That's why he did that. But here is what I want you today to remember about all those 85,000 missing soldiers, sailors, Marines, including the soldier you have chosen. I want you to say this: thank you for my freedom. Now, today will pass. You will grow up to be young people. Probably most of you will get married. And in the years to come, I want you to remember that today, this day, you were at Oak Grove Middle School celebrating our MIA Memorial Day program. At this time, I'm going to tell you a little bit about some of the things that are displayed in front of you. Notice the flag, or the MIA POW sleeve that is placed on this chair. Also, it is the only flag that can be flown at the same height as the U.S. flag. Every other flag must always be flown at a lower level, but it's the only one. Now, this is a photo of my brother, Robert. He was born October 10th, 1917. And when he was 24 years old, our country needed him. We were not at war yet. This was in April of 1941. He was drafted into the military service to serve 1 year. As you probably all know, on December 7th, 1941, a war started between the United States, Japan, Germany, and Italy. They were called the Axis. At that time, he had been in the Army for 9 months. And he was stationed first at a place called Camp Custer, Michigan, where he was made into, he was a big fellow. If you think Robert is big, this guy was 6'6", and he weighed 245. And he was a huge man. And so, of course, being a big fellow, they made him into a military policeman because they thought he could handle, the people that get unruly, and the soldiers. Soldiers get unruly too, They're not always nice people. So he was a motorcycle police officer, And he loved his job. He really enjoyed it. And he served there at a place called, when he was done with the training at Camp Custer, he was sent to a place called Fort Dix, New Jersey, where he spent the next 2 years. And as the war went on, this man was, he said, you know, all my friends are going away to service, and here I am staying safely in America. So he went to his commanding officers, this is the story I've been told, and told them he wanted to be part of the battle that was going on in Europe at that time. And so they sent him back to training. He left Fort Dix, and he ended up at guarding German prisoners of war at that time, but he didn't like that job either. So they sent him back to infantry school, and in October of 1944, he was sent to Germany. And on his first day of battle, his first morning, he and a squad of other men, approximately 7, went into battle, and out of that, he never came home. We know what happened after 56 years, what happened to him, but we did not know what happened to him prior to that time. When I retired from, I was a teacher, by the way, and I taught in a little school called Fridley, and maybe you've heard of it. I spent 28 years at Fridley Middle School, and I had young people just like you, 8th graders. So I know a little bit about 8th grade students, and that's beside the point. Getting back to my brother, Robert, when we finally found out what happened to him, he had stepped on a mine, and he died right there, but no one came and picked him up. And it's believed that what happened at that night, it snowed. This was in December of 1944, and it snowed heavily, and there were bodies left all over. It must have been a horrible thing. But the American Army then left the scene without ever recovering his body. And some person or persons came later, they dug a hole, they threw his body into the ground and covered it up, never put up a marker or anything. He was left there by himself. My mother, first my father died, then my mother died. And I had 3 other brothers that passed on. We never knew what happened. And then on January of 2000, we got some gentlemen, 3 soldiers came from Washington, D.C. with the information that his remains had been found and had been sent to Honolulu, Hawaii, to the Department of Mortuary Affairs, where he was positively identified. And if Robert will show you, those are his dog tags, his actual dog tags. And also, if you'll notice, before you are what are left of his boots. Now, he was, as I said, he was a big fellow. He wore size 15 shoe, These were shoes that were actually exhumed with his remains. That's all I have to remember my brother by now are these old shoes, other than his memory. I've had chances to tell this story numerous times, and I never get tired of telling it. I'm not telling it for my brother. I'm telling it for the 85,000 families that do not know where their Robert is. We finally found our Robert, but there are 85,000 families out there do not know where their Robert is. I hope you were keeping this in mind now, young people, as you leave here today. The person you have chosen, just imagine they are someone you sent away to war, and you received a telegram. On that telegram it says your son or daughter is missing in action. Do you have the telegram?
It's right there. It's up on the screen.
Okay, that is the telegram my mother and father received that morning. I remember the morning just like it was here. I was exactly you guys' age. I was in the 8th grade at that time. And I remember it just so well. My dad, 3 brothers, we were in the barn doing chores, and we got this message. It was a telegram. And I remember how my father came back and explained to us boys what had happened to his son. Needless to say, we all were crying. He was crying. My mother was crying. Even though at that time he was reported missing in action, we knew he would never come home. We just knew it, I guess. It was one of those things. That was the telegram. Now that other photo shows the exact place where he was killed. He was trying to, we do know this, he was trying to capture a bunker. It's a huge stone fortress, and the walls of it are about 6 feet thick, and that's where the German soldiers lived, and they would come out and they would fight in the trenches and stuff. My brother was trying, along with the rest of the infantrymen, were trying to capture that bunker, and he stepped on this mine. And as to why no one ever came back and retrieved his body, we'll never know. Now this is a photo here of his first funeral. By the way, he had 2 funerals. Now, not many people have that. I don't suppose most of us will or have or ever will. But in 1945, after 1 year, the Army sent the second telegram and said, your son is now officially dead, as far as they knew. So we had a beautiful funeral for him. And this is the flag right here, the flag that my parents received. And these are some of the medals. He earned 9 medals that are including the Bronze Star, Purple Heart, among others. These are awards that were given to him posthumously. You know what that means? How many know what posthumous means? Yeah, it means they were given after the fact. See, he never knew what happened to them, so these were awarded posthumously. The color guard came, those are 5 of our brothers, surviving brothers, at his second funeral, which was held in May of 2001. Yeah, May of 2001. And his remains have been retrieved or brought back from Hawaii, and he's buried in a cemetery in Wisconsin now. So This is the story of one soldier, one missing in action soldier that came home. And what we see before you is the evidence that don't give up hope in this case. I never gave up hope for my brother that would return home. And it took me 56 years before we finally found him.
Can you talk about the grave where they found
Oh, yes. Oh, it's really something. When the German government found his remains by using metal detectors in 2000, they left this huge gaping hole in the ground. And so the story began circulating around this part of the battle site, and people started collecting boulders and stones, and they started building this beautiful monument, which is still there to this day. And people come from all over Europe and the United States, I suppose, and you can see some of the things they add. People put flowers and wreaths and things like that. I have been to his gravesite 5 times since 2000, and I'd like to ask my daughter-in-law to stand up. Okay, and this is our daughter-in-law, and that's Bob's wife. We've been there, and that's where we see them standing next to his gravesite. This was done in 2017? 2017, yeah. Yeah. So it's quite an honor to sit here today and talk to you and explain to you what Memorial Day means to me. And I'm just so proud that I can be here and share what little history I can about a missing in action soldier, hoping that you will remember this little story too. And Memorial Day is a day when we honor not only veterans, but also remember to honor your friends, your parents too. That's very important. I can't stress that enough, that how important it is to honor your friends, your parents, your heritage. All of you, I hope, know what heritage means. You all have it. Everyone has heritage. That heritage means what you grew up. You're growing up in the greatest country in the world. I mean, don't let anybody tell you you're not. You've got lots of people out there who want you to believe that the United States is a bad country. Don't you believe it for 1 minute. Our government is the best government you can have. You may not agree with all the things they do, but just remember this. I challenge you to go to any other country where they have anything better than we have. We're the land of opportunity. You people, as you grow up and become adults, you'll be free to go out and do pretty much what you want because of what that person you've chosen to sit in that chair fought for. So, okay. I kind of run out of words.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Cahill, for sharing this morning. Before Colby Rathard and Cody Levine.
I'll say one thing. Bob said be done by 9:15.
Did you make it? There you go. All right. We're still on time. There you go. So Colby Rathard and Cody Levine are going to perform taps this morning, but before they do, Ethan Paulson and Sam Brood are going to come up and share a brief history of the famous melody.
On any given day at Arlington National Cemetery, a military ritual occurs that is both familiar and moving. An escort of honor comes to attention and presents arms. Then a firing party comes to attention and fires 3 volleys. After the briefest of moments, a bugler then plays the 24 notes of America's most famous bugle call. The flag, held by members of the Military Honor Guard, is then folded into a triangle reminiscent of a hat from the American Revolution. This ceremony is performed almost 20 times daily during the many funerals held at Arlington.
Of all the military bugle calls, none is so easily recognized or apt to evoke emotion than the call taps. This melody is both eloquent and haunting, while the history of its origin is somewhat clouded in controversy. In the British Army, a similar type of signal called last post has been sounded over soldiers' graves since 1885, but the music and the use of taps is unique to United States military since the call is sounded at funerals, wreath-laying ceremonies, and memorial services. It is a bugle call that beckons us to remember patriots who served our country with honor and valor.
At this time, 8th graders Cody Levine
And Colby Rathert,
will lead us in a performance of taps.
please stand.
You may be seated.
Thank you, students. As we close this morning, it's my hope that the musical selections, the message, and the readings have encouraged a greater appreciation and understanding of why we celebrate Memorial Day. I also have you've learned or been reminded of how important it is for us to take a moment and observe those who have sacrificed so much for us. Thank you for your attention this morning. As our 8th grade band plays, we will dismiss by section, and at this time then, all students will be able to transition to their Day 1 first period class. Our 8th grade band.
Thank you.